We can't play the music, but the movie starts with the song Nighttime is the Right Time by Ray Charles, which, good or ill, will forever be associated with a wonderful classic moment from The Cosby Show. And considering where this movie is going, maybe that's apt, but it's still a sin. Balancing instead of consuming alcohol. You can search forever and date a lot of terrible men who are bad in bed, but eventually you'll settle down with the 1D you're looking for.
Your wife is drunk, she's babbling nonsense right now, and she's pregnant, and so she needs another drink to get that baby healthy.
This guy. And if this is your first watch of the movie, you may think, well, it's the 1950s and medical research to support women's health was abhorrent. And you're right, but this isn't the 1950s. And this asshole is Westworlding his misogynistic ego like a fire hose. None of these people are drinking real alcohol in this scene. Everyone is pretending. This is like the placebo of parties, and everyone needs to stop yelling like they have something fun to say. As I watch them go round and round each time, so it goes. He can't keep his wild eyes on the road.
Take the wheel! Take the wheel! Take the wheel!
Excuse me, Harry Styles, you shall address Florence Pugh as Jesus or not at all. Maybe existing in a simulation has given Jack a sense of godlike fearlessness, but he can die if he's injured, right? Maybe watch where you're going? Uh-huh. So you want me to believe that this couple is sizzling, do you? Is driving drunk around a desert doing donuts sexy? I don't think so. Do these bacon and eggs have more chemistry than Florence Pugh and Harry Styles? Most definitely.
She has a cocktail in one hand, a racket in the other, and Jack, she didn't spill a drop.
Lying. The first indication that something is really off in this movie is the often missed clue that none of the men park their cars in the shade, opting to leave their vehicles roasting in the desert sun. Everyone should enter their car with painful yelps and the sound of sizzling skin. Oh, apparently these people crashed into a reality known as the Edward Scissorhands. Also, much like with Edward Scissorhands, I'm going to send the fact that these assholes can time this together with precision. Thanks all, this Jack and Dean flip each other off scene really adds a lot to the character, and I'm going to try and sound smart and say that it probably adds a lot to the denouement, making your employees race the Mint 400 before going to work. This far too large pet rock.
So they're gonna build a whole new row of houses behind us, so we'll be much closer to town.
So wait, how does that make you closer to town?
Alice would be surreal at CinemaSins. I'm sorry, but the quick pace of these footsteps and this slow camera move do not go together, and I'm sure that's on purpose. But anyway, ballet lessons. Also, this shot lasts for 25 seconds, all to introduce the Gemma Chan character, who's important, but not, like, introduced with a long camera shot before ever showing her face important.
Stomach in, chin up.
Cersei seductively teaches Yelena the art of the dance, and that beats actually, you know what? My fan fiction beats that.
That's it. I'm calling Santa.
Calling Santa at this hour. Visual representation of this movie's very own lack of substance somehow makes its way into the scene. Also, does this mean that Alice's own imagination failed to produce the egg yolk? Or does this mean the simulation infrastructure is cracking? Ooh, the tension of that question will build into the end of the movie where you will be horribly disappointed to learn nothing new. Yeah, but how long had that steak been cooking when you started crushing the eggs? The egg crushing took a grand total of 30 seconds. Being so focused on sexing each other that you go to a dinner table to knock over delicious bowls of food, rather than simply guiding the activity into the bedroom or at least on the floor. Also, watermelon sugar is a fantastic starter to your dinner, but the sommelier may have a hard time pairing a wine with it. Also, while some people would say that it's a refreshing statement to see a woman so boldly engaged in her own pleasure, it's appropriate to remind everyone that this is all done without consent and all boners should be immediately canceled.
I live next door. You wouldn't believe the things I've heard.
I'll translate. Jack and Alice have been knocking non-consensual boots and express themselves through simulated verbal patterns, which the computer program then amplifies to the adjacent simulation sharer who absorbs that as part of her reality. Somehow, Bunny is okay with this, which makes her more of a creep than she reveals herself to be by the end of this movie. It's pretty obvious this is going to end up being an antebellum situation, or The Village, or The Truman Show, or an episode of WandaVision, or probably some Twilight Zone episode I can't think of, because there's always a Twilight Zone.
Alice, how many babies should Violet have?
Oh, at least 7.
Wishing a cheaper by the dozen on anyone. Do you love spinning cameras? Boy, if you love cameras that circumvent idle chit-chatter, do we have a scene for you?
I haven't really gotten to talk to Frank very much.
Frank doesn't have to talk to you.
Dave, how do we make this Stepford Wives neighborhood seem more culty? I don't know, Jane. Maybe we should have someone innocuously say they haven't had a chance to talk to the leader much, and then, out of nowhere, have Nick Kroll say,
Frank doesn't have to talk to you.
Like someone who's just graduated at the David Koresh compound.
What is the enemy of progress?
Congress?
Chaos.
I thought I knew that joke so well.
our newest intrepid explorer, this brave young Robinson Crusoe.
Picking Robinson Crusoe, the guy who got shipwrecked and stranded on an island for years, as your go-to explorer. And look, I'm sure that character was picked for those very reasons, but you might as well have said Gilligan. And didn't Robinson Crusoe take a job trying to buy slaves? I guess that ties into this movie, but that guy. Jack disappears for absolutely no reason, so that Alice will go look for him and then accidentally stumble onto the plot of this movie. Jack, who wants to impress Frank, dips out on his boss's captivating speech to fix his tie in Frank's private room? What sort of asshole enters the man's house and wanders around for a private mirror in a bedroom? I mean, we needed Jack to be dumb so Alice could see Margaret looking suspicious, but were there other ways to get there other than Jack breaking and entering into a crime lord's home? Hey there, Harry. Let me give you some pointers about how Florence and I did this in Outlaw King. Making sustained eye contact with the dog during boning.
Wow, you mean a devil's game? You thought he loves, isn't it?
No.
If they don't want us going out there, they have their reasons.
But apparently it's super easy to go into this restricted zone with no fencing or security or anything.
There's a plane, right?
I have no idea how Alice is seeing this image of a crashing plane on the very day she decides to ride the bus past the end of the line, what it symbolizes, or what it means for the simulation development team's annual review.
That's not my route. I can't.
The real question is, why does the bus even go out here? The logical last stop of this bus is back here where everyone gets off. A final stop that is so logical the driver wonders why you're even on the bus after this. Like, why would the powers that be allow the bus to come out here, like, ever? And look, I get it. They want to make everything seem as normal as possible out here, but they still take a huge risk by not having someone ready to tackle Alice. I mean, they already tell these people that the place is forbidden, so what does it matter if they have security? I wonder how the brainwashing part of this world works. They've managed to remove Alice's memory of her education, independence, and basic survival instincts. Alice has straight up walked into a goddamn desert without a plan or water. Also, it's weird to me that they put these women under some sort of unconscious state and build a world where their mind can wander into a restricted area.
I need some help. There's been an accident.
I love how this movie made Alice's journey to the top of the hill so long and drawn out that she's too tired to express the urgency that a plane crash would warrant. She should have taken the bus back to the shopping center and made a call. I know in the real world she's a doctor, so her compassion is shining through here, but this is call 911 territory. Alice touches the portal that leads her back to the real world, but rather than her waking up, we see some imagery of a little bit of her life, some hypnotic images of eyes and dancers, and then we're back into the simulation. I guess we're supposed to believe that she does leave the simulation momentarily, but happens to do so right as the real Jack gets back to the apartment and can resubmit her into the system. And if I'm way off here and she never left at all, it calls into question her waking up at the end of the movie even more. This is a bunch of vague that will be explained later, but I really think it's just here so the movie can be more arty. I'm halfway expecting Jeff Lebowski to be dancing to Kenny Rogers in the first edition here in a minute. I'd say the walls were closing in on Alice, but this is ridiculous.
You saw it. They're lying to all of us.
Alice doesn't immediately ask how Margaret knows anything at all. Did the nosy bus driver say something? Did Margaret see Alice return via the red suits? This information would be pretty great for a woman who currently has walls attempting to kill her, if that is what is happening. See? Information would help this all make sense.
No one asks any questions. We can't stay here anymore, Alice.
Oh, I didn't realize this was a prequel to Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. I know Alice is slowly learning the realities of her world, but why would she get a premonition of Margaret's death? She's just strapped down being held against her will in Jack's apartment, so what gives her this kind of clairvoyance? Up until now, the mutual reality of this shared simulation has been interesting to think about. One person farts in a room, and that fart is heard and smelled by the people nearby. However, now the movie introduces another element of the simulation, which is that one person can break away from the group unnoticed, see something that shatters their reality, and then reabsorb into the mutual group dynamic at a moment's notice. If that's possible, why would the creators of the Victory Project ever allow unhappiness or discourse among their users? Keep them separate, make their user feed happy moments filled with dopamine hits, and dismantle the world from the inside out like Facebook. No. Florence Pugh's reaction to being in this movie halfway through filming makes it into the movie. There are more security assholes here than anywhere around the planetarium these women found that started this mess in the first place. You gotta love how these security assholes decided to go through the clothesline route when taking Alice away from the scene. They could go around it, but chose not to. The movie suddenly turns into the white people version of Get Out. Alice is investigating the realities of her world, so of course the doctor brings a briefcase with Margaret's folder in it with big lettering that says security risk on it. After all, you definitely need a separate folder to denote security risks when you're making house calls, and you keep it with you at all times, even when your avatar is visiting patients while they're strapped down in a bed experiencing a real-life matrix.
You wouldn't want me discussing the details of your treatment with my other patients now, would you?
I wouldn't mind.
Apparently, just because Alice wouldn't mind having her medical history given to others is enough motivation for Dr. Collins to go into more detail about Margaret's treatment.
What is it that you Brits say?
After all, I think there's only one British saying ever. I think it's cheerio, old chap. Bollocks, let's stop f***ing about and have a pint at the old pub, fish and chips.
Jack, walk me out.
I'll just leave my briefcase full of incriminating files behind while you do that. The movie provides fake tension so that we think Dr. Collins is going to catch her looking at the files, but apparently cuts out the part where she took out the file already. This is the SWAT team knocking down the wrong door while the protagonist is safely miles away cliche of high-tension scenes involving medical files. I don't understand why the doctor's file on Margaret would be full of redactions if he's one of the main guys behind all this shit. Who would you be giving this file to who could blow the lid off the whole scheme? If it's that important to keep the truth hidden, why even have a file? Maybe the movie thinks it's brave for letting the audience sit inside so many mirror scenes, but on a second watch, the silence just gives us time to reflect on the myriad questions that pick at this plot. For example, right now I'm thinking about the actual computers and servers that house this simulation and the people that know the truth in the real world. Right now would be the perfect time to begin to shuffle in the truth behind the facade and spend the rest of the movie watching Pew break out to take them down. Just in case you needed to know things in the real world are super f***ed up, Alice has a flash memory of her former life that makes sure you see the name Sylvia Plath before it cuts away. It's about as subtle as Gwyneth Paltrow showing up and whispering Sylvia Plath to the audience and running away through a cemetery in a nightgown.
Let's have a baby.
Kids. Whatever this guy is doing on stage to hype an audience or the band, but not using the microphone. Look, movie, there's only so many times you can keep showing me these dancers and not give me any explanation. At this point, I think you're just trying to seem interesting and mysterious, even though the cat's so far out of the bag it's been adopted and it's catching field mice.
Jack Chambers, I am honored to invite you to join our senior advisory board.
This is Frank giving Jack a bribe so that Alice will have more motivation to stay in line and he'll have more motivation to enforce it. But honestly, I don't know why it's so important for Frank to keep this one couple happy. The fact that Alice knows something is up and can't be cured is always going to be a danger to the victory simulation. So I'm not sure why they don't CIA these people out of existence once the procedure fails. Frank gives Jack a knowing look, Jack removes a jacket, and the tension of this scene skyrockets. Is Jack going to do some weird f***ing cult ritual in front of everyone and lob off an arm only to have it regrow, thereby affixing himself in everyone's eyes as some sort of desert messiah? A dance number? The big moment of showing potential is a dance number? Oh, now I get the plane crash symbolism. This movie is in a tailspin.
You want to see the boy dance?
There are heavy-handed metaphors, and then there are metaphors so heavy they could suffocate a blue whale. I mean, someone check my face. I think this movie hit me so hard with something that it left a mark that spells out metaphor. Well, I cannot sin this movie for overcandling. I can sin it for over-mirroring. Movie gives you a second chance to understand this Jack dances for everyone's entertainment scene for what it is, just in case you missed it the first time and still want to feel smart.
Tell me, what happened?
But why answer the question when we can keep showing Jack dancing?
She didn't slip. It wasn't an accident. I saw it happen. I saw her fall.
Good scene for Florence Pugh here. This is where the movie just lets her... God damn it!
You went out where?
Okay, I've had enough. This movie's incessant cutting to Jack dancing during this scene is making me go to my nearest random number generator to count cents. Could be as little as 10 or as many as 1,000,000. No whammies, no whammies, no whammies. Stop! Consider yourself lucky, movie. The number is 709,775. An annoying byproduct of this movie is being forced to consider what frying an egg in a pan with overcooked bacon represents. Like maybe that's another eye shape and the bacon is the shriveling lives of the people stuck in this cul-de-sac pan. Spoiler, it means nothing. We're just super okay with wasting time. Get to the point.
How the hell did you get Frank to come to your house?
These are the kinds of things we hear about Frank throughout the movie. In addition to those whisperings, we see him making vague speeches to uplift all his followers. We see him peeping on Alice and Jack making sex with each other, and we see him make Jack dance for his supper. But I don't think we really know what this character is, other than a cardboard cutout for general villainy. It would have been nice to see Chris Pine play a fully fleshed out bad guy here. But the movie's insistence on keeping a lot of stuff from you to hit you with a whammy at the end takes away a lot of options.
It wasn't me. It was Alice.
Oh, I bet that was an amazing scene with Alice working the courage to call the notoriously unapproachable Frank to invite him to a party. Too bad it wasn't filmed or kept in. I understand. You didn't want to cut a frame of the 15 hours you shot of Jack dancing. It was a tough decision.
I'm sorry Bunny didn't believe you.
This scene makes me really wish we'd seen Alice inviting Frank to dinner earlier, because that could have made this scene all the creepier and more foreboding.
Because I've been waiting for someone like you, someone to challenge me.
Challenge? As in someone who wants to break out of the simulation but can't? Wouldn't he have had that with Margaret, who was bucking against the programming so much she attempted to kill herself? Margaret caused such a stir that...
She made it impossible for Ted to do his job, so he no longer works for the Victory Project.
Which means he can't come back into the simulation and the real Margaret out there in the world had to be killed or something. Was that not a challenge enough?
And yet here you are, preparing dinner like a good girl.
This is supposed to make Alice feel like her defiance amounts to nothing because she's still playing the dutiful housewife. But if she's just doing it for show and she now knows that Frank knows she's taken the red pill, what kind of flex is this?
No, I hope it's a boy. Girls are hard. They are.
Later, when we find out that Victory is a simulation set up by dudes for the purpose of controlling women, you'll go back to a line like this and realize that this movie could have had a lot to say about girls growing up in a society of impossible standards. It's a rich topic to explore, but it only hints at it. The movie's attempt at an M. Night ending deprives us of something more meaningful.
You dropped your ticket, and he bent down, picked it up, gave it to you, right?
If variety would help avoid the women all talking to each other and piecing together their stacking similarities, why not think of a few more backstory options than a drop ticket? Even the most basic video game offers some preloaded story options for character creation.
Frank is doing something to us.
This was Alice's plan? Invite a bunch of people over for dinner and then tell them a conspiracy about Frank and hope they believe it?
It's all about control. We wouldn't even know he might be poisoning the food.
Enough!
Even though Alice has officially gone over the line and doesn't care what anyone thinks anymore, she allows Shelley to interrupt and take control of the conversation for no other reason than I think the movie just wants to give Gemma Chan some screen time.
I was expecting so much more from you.
The movie somehow filmed my reaction at the end of this movie and put it in the movie. While you think of the logistical laws that breaks, here's a 70,000 word essay on time travel.
Planned a whole evening to sabotage me.
No!
Great, another scene of Jack and Alice fighting about what is really happening in a movie that barely wants to show us what is really happening. This sloppy script pits them against each other so desperately that each scene's seemingly foundational resolution turns to acid and eats away at the next scene's momentum.
Frank even admitted it to me. He admitted it to me in the kitchen. That's why I did that.
So wait, if you didn't come up with a plan to tell everyone about Frank until he admitted something nefarious was going on, what was the original intent of the dinner? You didn't know he was going to admit it, but you still went out of your way to throw a party and invite the very hard to even speak to Frank for what? Deception?
I packed us a snack in case we drive all night long.
One snack? Listen, if I'm driving all night, I need at least 3 snacks. Stop being miserly with the snacks, Alice. Go back to the kitchen at— Whoa, I heard it. Yep, I heard myself saying it. Carry on. Is this the real life? Is this in fantasy? Appears getting brain fried to escape from reality. Hypnotic eyes and f***ed up misogyny. I'm so confused, boy, I need a glossary. Because a sleazy bum kidnapped Flo, CSI scenario. Anyway the plot goes doesn't really matter to me. I sin.
How am I gonna take care of you?
I'll take extra shifts. It's not a problem.
Wait a minute, is this movie saying that Jack was worried about money troubles when his wife is a doctor? She thought she needed to take some extra shifts to make ends meet? If she was a nurse, that would make sense, but she's a whole-ass MD.
I don't have my phone in the OR, Jack.
Well, it'd be nice to know that.
Not having the brains to use deductive reasoning and simply know that.
Dance for me.
Jack tries to get more Jack dancing into the movie.
Modern society has smothered our true selves.
Is this movie trying to say that Alice remembers Jack listening to Frank's podcast before the Victory Project? Because she isn't around to have this memory.
I missed you so much I started writing gossip in a journal.
Let me show you page 1. I bet she doesn't show up for the premiere. For the horrible treatment of the bacon and the women in this movie, I will now add 20 sins.
Chosen nationality, British. Chosen wife, Alice Warren.
Why did Dr. Collins call Jack's chosen wife Alice Warren during this reading, but her name is listed as Alice Chambers on the computer?
Are you aware that you are responsible for the physical upkeep of your chosen wife?
Okay, so it looks like the Victory Project drugs and ties up the chosen wife so that the husband can take care of her physical body, and that's super horrifying. But Alice is a well-known doctor at the local hospital. When she goes missing, how does no one call the cops and look for her in the apartment she calls home? So we finally see the truth this movie is getting at. Alice's real body is lying in a bed, hooked up to fluids, eyes peeled open, exposed to a device that is lasering a fake reality through her eyes. First question, how does she keep her eyes moisturized all day? Also, I find it strange that a man that had no job and no money, who wanted Alice to cook and clean for him, would take out a job in order to afford keeping her sedated in such a way that he would have to cook and clean for her. She's in diapers, right? Like, he has to wipe her ass every day. Hey, Pew, we're gonna force your eyes wide open with optical forceps that will indent unapologetically into the soft tissues of your orbital socket. Could you remain expressionless and act like this is not an invasion of any kind? That would be great. Luckily for the movie, Frank created a method of hypnosis where the movie could cut away to these arty dancer shots and ramp up production value.
I have to leave every day just to make enough money to keep us here, and I fucking hate every minute of it.
But getting a job to avoid Alice having to pick up extra shifts in the real world was just too much. Also, are we still going to be vague about what Jack does to make money? Does the Victory Project actually employ him? Does he work overtime at Subway so that he can pay for this? The movie's world building is as half-assed as Frank's vision for a perfect society. Oh, so you just die in the real world after being killed in the fake world? That's a design flaw.
Alice, if a man dies here, he dies in the real world, and Jack can't put you back in this time.
But the women can live if they die in the fake world? What the f***?
I chose this.
This is yet another character that could have used some deep dive exploration, but is just the means to yet another surprise that feels empty with only 10 minutes of movie left. No one knows why the lights are bursting in the cul-de-sac of death. Could be the computer program power surge or Pew hacking into some sort of Matrix-level awareness of potential. But nothing out of the ordinary happens again, and everyone seems to be just fine with rounding out this thriller with a car chase and question marks.
Shut up, Bill!
If ever you need to visually assist someone with the concept of how expectorant carries through the air, just slow down the delivery of these 3 words and behold the fortress of germs erupting like a cloud from Nick Kroll's face.
We came to save the world from itself.
This series of flashbacks well after the surprise reveal and about an hour after you actually figured it out on your own is supposed to be meaningful and just isn't. Bunny hasn't given a shit about Alice's imprisonment or torture, but suddenly cares enough that she's willing to risk her own spot in delusional paradise and help Alice escape victory. Where did her motivation to switch sides come from? No time to think of this 180, we have a car chase to get to. These security guys running and getting into cars to chase Alice when A, they should have already been here, and B, they should already have guys at headquarters is C, infuriating. By the way, all the people who work for Victory, whether it's security or sanitation, that would be some cool shit to know about this world that we'll never get to see. You know, I thought that the one road out of Victory was a sort of security measure to ensure that all the avatars had to funnel out and could be scooped up quickly, but nope, there are 0 security measures at the single exit from the town. Okay, so why are these cars behind Alice so much faster than the car she's driving? It's a 1951 Chevrolet Skyline 4-door sedan and a 1952 Studebaker Champion that is somehow making gains on a 1961 Corvette. Go f*** yourself with this sudden burst of speed that the bad guys suddenly found near the end of the car chase.
Stop her, you idiots!
Why is Dr. Collins in a car heading at top speed toward 3 cars like this? You're telling me there's no other way to stop Alice from getting inside headquarters? Of course, we all know the real reason is so that the 3 bad guy cars will crash into each other and Alice wins the day, but I'm looking for a reason that's not total bullshit.
If she gets there, she gets through. Who's gonna put her back in?
I would think that a criminal ring this involved and this successful would have a backup plan in place for a potential escapee. Earlier, Bunny told Alice she'd be killed in the real world for Jack's death. So, and I hate to use my mind to solve issues for this criminal ring, just send the hitman to kill her or put her back in, considering she'll have to wake up and adjust to reality, remove herself from her restraints, rip her catheter out or change her diaper, struggle with her potential atrophied legs to work out the pins and needles and slather some ointment on a few bed sores before getting free of her apartment. You have time.
It's my turn now.
Oh wow, Shelley killed Frank, and now she's going to run the company? Has always wanted to do this and finally got her chance? Wants to go back to the real world? Too bad I didn't know anything about her, or her motivations and desires, where this kill might have made me feel something. Also, in the end, Frank goes down like a chump, and I can see that working narratively. The men were never as great as they made themselves out to be, but I just feel empty inside. When I saw Alice walking up this pathway earlier, I didn't think it was the actual way you got to headquarters. I assumed it would be like a tunnel you went to from the ground, as you see here, indicated by this helpful arrow we've supplied. But nope, apparently all these assholes drove up this fucking Tokyo drift path every day because that makes absolute total sense to do in your fake world.
Don't leave me.
What the fuck is this shit? Alice touches headquarters and the movie gives this vague ending where we don't know if she got out or not. I mean, she did this shit before when there weren't security guys chasing her and she ended up back at her simulated house for some reason that was never explained. So I guess this is one of those endings where you make up whatever you want based on your life experience? Neat. Also, what happened to her getting killed in the real world, which is what Bunny thought was going to happen? Even if this did succeed, isn't she just tied up in her bedroom like Gerald's game? If this is supposed to mean she got back to the real world, please refer to the previous sin. Also, I think this was meant to be one of those movies that makes you think a lot when you leave the theater. Like, you think about how this cult-like utopia built to hold people hostage is some statement piece about women taking back their power, but the movie castrates its own momentum and ends this story before we see our heroine waking up and address the real-life people who are stealing women's lives. And for not taking this further than movies we have already seen address the plight of women's power better, I sin you!
Worry is like interest paid in advance on a debt that never comes due.
Good morning, ladies.
Good morning, Miss Strowski.
I blame the chicken. Why do hens lay eggs of different sizes? It's not you, mon ami.
Tommy, how's the peeping?
My name is Diana Debo Cherry.
That looks like debauchery.
No.
You need to drive out there. It just crashed. Oh my God. Oh my God. What's wrong with you?
Let's have a baby.
It's a trap!
I can't believe Vanessa, my bride, my one true love, the woman who taught me the beauty of monogamy, was a fembot all along.
First scene, I'm talking massive dance number. I'm thinking 100 dancers, fireworks, the lot.
Did you say all this was a simulation?
My question is...
I know Kung Fu.
Oh, I'll be damned, Dolores. You do remember some things, after all.